The sun set, casting a deep crimson hue over Willow's End, the quaint coastal town known for its murky secrets and ancient legends. Sarah Gray, the town's local historian, stood on the beach, staring into the horizon. The sky, a dark canvas punctuated with ominous clouds, seemed to mirror her thoughts. She couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding as the storm approached, its tempestuous winds howling like a chorus of angry spirits. The waves crashed violently against the shore, their salty spray mingling with the first drops of rain. As the storm intensified, Sarah reluctantly turned to leave, clutching her coat tightly around her. "Why does this storm feel different?" she thought, her mind racing with unease. It was as if nature itself was conspiring against the town, whispering secrets that were better left buried. Just as she reached her car, a loud crack resonated through the air, followed by a flash of lightning that illuminated the beach. Through the deluge, Sarah noticed something peculiar, an object, previously hidden beneath layers of sand, now glinting faintly in the storm's light. Her curiosity piqued, she moved closer, struggling against the wind and rain, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. Could it be? She wondered, squinting through the downpour. As Sarah neared the object, her eyes widened in disbelief. Before her lay the remnants of a shipwreck, its once majestic timbers now twisted and splintered, exposed for the first time in centuries. She had read about this ship in the town's folklore, a ghostly vessel lost to time and tide. "The sea serpent," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the storm. With trembling hands, Sarah reached out to touch the ship's weathered hull. As she did, something slipped out from beneath the debris, a worn, leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. She picked it up, her breath catching as she opened the fragile cover to reveal an ancient map inside, its cryptic symbols and faded lines telling a tale of untold riches and perilous adventures. In the distance, lightning crackled again, illuminating the beach and revealing the shadowy figures of other curious onlookers, drawn to the wreck by the storm. Sarah clutched the journal to her chest, her mind racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. This could change everything, she thought, the implications of her discovery swirling around her like the turbulent winds. As the storm raged on, Sarah hurried back to her car, her heart pounding with a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that this discovery would set in motion a series of events that would test her resolve and challenge everything she knew about her town's history. "I have to protect this," she resolved, her mind already planning her next steps. The storm howled, but Sarah's thoughts were already miles away, lost in the adventure that lay ahead. She couldn't wait to dive into the secrets of the shipwreck, her historian's heart beating with anticipation for the journey to come. Dawn broke over Willow's End with a soft, rosy light that belied the storm's fury from the night before. The sea was a calm slate, as if the tempest had never happened. Yet the events of the previous night weighed heavily on Sarah Gray's mind as she sat in her cozy kitchen, nursing a strong cup of coffee. The ancient map lay before her on the table, its cryptic symbols and faded lines a siren call to adventure and danger. Sarah's thoughts raced, the map's promise of untold riches overshadowed by a persistent unease. What if this discovery brings more harm than good? She pondered, the worn leather of the journal rough against her fingers. Her determination to protect the shipwreck grew stronger, even as excitement bubbled beneath her concern. The town was abuzz with rumors about the shipwreck and the treasure it might contain. Sarah could hear snippets of conversation through her open window as she studied the map, the townsfolk speculating wildly. Amidst this cacophony, a new voice rose, authoritative and charismatic, cutting through the chatter with a tone of confidence and ambition. Captain Marcus Flint had arrived in Willow's End. Flint was a man of impressive stature, his sun-kissed skin and piercing blue eyes hinting at a life spent at sea. His arrival was marked by a sense of inevitability, like a tidal wave that couldn't be stopped. "This treasure belongs to those brave enough to seize it," he declared, his voice carrying over the excited crowd. He was a man driven by greed and glory, his eyes gleaming with visions of fame and fortune. Sarah watched from the doorway of her cottage as Flint made his proclamation, his presence a stark contrast to the quaint surroundings. Her heart sank as she realized that the shipwreck was now more than a historical artifact. It was a battleground for conflicting ambitions. He sees the treasure as his ticket to fame, she thought, her resolve hardening. She had to protect the site, not just from time and tide, but from the likes of Flint. Captain Flint was a master of charm, weaving tales of adventure and riches that captivated the townsfolk. He offered them dreams of prosperity, playing on their desires and ambitions. But beneath his charismatic exterior, Sarah sensed a ruthless determination that sent a cold wave of dread through her. She watched as he set up camp near the beach, his intentions clear. He was going to excavate the treasure, no matter the cost. Sarah's mind raced with plans and counterplans as she watched Flint and his crew prepare for their expedition. I have to stop him, she thought, her resolve solidifying into a fierce determination. She knew the shipwreck was more than just a pile of rotting wood. It was a piece of the town's history, a testament to the bravery and folly of those who came before. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the town, Sarah made her way to the beach. The remnants of the shipwreck lay before her, a stark reminder of the past. She knelt down, touching the weathered wood, and whispered a silent vow to protect it. She knew that the days ahead would be filled with challenges, but her heart beat with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Meanwhile, Captain Flint sat in his tent, his mind focused on the treasure that lay beneath the sands. I'll make my name here, he thought, a smile playing on his lips. He was a man driven by ambition, and nothing, not even the quaint historian from Willow's End, would stand in his way. Thus, the stage was set for a clash of wills and a battle for the soul of Willow's End, as two determined individuals prepared for the adventure of a lifetime. The night was calm, but beneath the surface, a storm of conflict and desire brewed, ready to burst forth and change the town forever. Morning light streamed through the lace curtains of Sarah Gray's kitchen, illuminating the ancient map on her table. The house smelled of freshly brewed coffee, but Sarah's mind was elsewhere as she studied the cryptic symbols on the yellowed parchment. The map spoke of hidden riches, but it also hinted at dangers that seemed all too real now that Captain Marcus Flint had set up camp on the beach. This map, Sarah mused, tracing the intricate lines with her fingertips, could lead to unimaginable discoveries, or unimaginable trouble. The thought of Flint digging recklessly through the town's history filled her with a sense of urgency. She knew she needed to understand the map before Flint acted on his reckless ambitions. Outside, the small town of Willow's End buzzed with the news of the shipwreck. The town's narrow streets were filled with murmurs of gold and glory, dreams and dangers. As Sarah listened to the chatter from her window, she felt a growing resolve to decipher the map's secrets. I have to protect the past, she thought, her heart pounding with anticipation and dread. Sarah gathered her research materials and headed to the local library, a quaint building filled with the town's historical records and folklore. The librarian, Mrs. Willow, greeted her with a knowing smile. You've heard the news, haven't you? She asked, her voice filled with both excitement and concern. Yes, Sarah replied, her mind already racing through the possibilities. I need to understand this map before Flint destroys everything. Mrs. Willow's face grew serious as she examined the map. This ship was lost in a fierce storm centuries ago, she explained, her finger tracing the faded ink. Legend has it that it carried a great treasure, but also a terrible curse. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. A curse? She echoed, her mind whirling with the implications. Mrs. Willow nodded. The ship's captain, a notorious pirate, swore that anyone who disturbed his treasure would meet a tragic end. The town has avoided that beach for generations, but now... Her voice trailed off, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and resignation. Sarah felt a chill of unease, but her resolve only grew stronger. I have to stop Flint, she thought, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the map. "This isn't just about treasure, it's about our town's history, our legacy." As the day wore on, Sarah pored over the map and the library's ancient tomes, piecing together the story of the lost ship and its captain. The map's symbols slowly revealed their secrets, pointing to a hidden chamber beneath the shipwreck. "This chamber," Sarah thought, her heart pounding with excitement, "holds the key to everything." Meanwhile, on the beach, Captain Flint was making preparations for his excavation. He watched as his crew assembled the necessary equipment, a gleam of ambition in his eyes. "This treasure," he thought, his smile widening, "will make me famous." Sarah knew that time was running out. As the sun set, casting long shadows over the town, she made her way to the beach, her heart heavy with determination and fear. She needed to find the hidden chamber before Flint did, or the town's legacy would be lost forever. Under the fading light, the shipwreck loomed like a ghost from the past, a silent testament to forgotten dreams and unspoken dangers. As Sarah approached, she whispered a silent prayer for guidance, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. The night was calm, but beneath the surface, a storm of conflict and desire brewed, ready to change Willow's End forever. The dawn after Sarah's midnight visit to the beach brought with it an eerie quietness. The usually lively Willow's End was shrouded in uncertainty, its residents torn between the promise of wealth and the fear of losing their heritage. The storm that loomed beneath the surface of the town's consciousness threatened to break as the community grappled with the implications of the shipwreck's discovery. Sarah Gray, having hardly slept, was determined to uncover the hidden chamber before Captain Marcus Flint could proceed with his plans. She looked over the map, now etched into her memory, and her determination was matched only by her fear of what Flint might unleash. "I have to act quickly," she thought, her resolve unwavering. She gathered her notes, her mind racing through possibilities. As Sarah made her way to the beach, she overheard snippets of heated conversations in the town square. A crowd had gathered around a makeshift podium where Captain Flint stood, spinning tales of gold and glory. "This treasure will bring prosperity to Willow's End," Flint declared, his voice filled with the confidence of a man who believed he was on the brink of greatness. In stark contrast, a group of townspeople huddled together, their expressions filled with apprehension and fear. They were the guardians of the town's folklore and history, and they saw Flint's ambitions as a threat to their heritage. "He's going to destroy everything we hold dear," whispered Mrs. Willow, the librarian, her face pale with concern. The tension was palpable as Sarah joined the opposing group. She glanced at Flint, whose eyes gleamed with anticipation, and then at her fellow townspeople, whose eyes reflected a shared fear of losing their past. "We have to stop him," she thought, her heart heavy with the weight of the town's legacy. Captain Flint's charm was undeniable as he swayed the crowd with promises of untold riches and a brighter future. But Sarah knew that beneath his confident exterior lay a ruthless determination that would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. "This is about more than just treasure," she thought, her resolve hardening. "It's about who we are and what we want to become." As the day wore on, the town's divisions deepened. Families argued over dinner tables, friends clashed in the streets, and the once united community was now split between those who saw the treasure as a blessing and those who saw it as a curse. Sarah felt the weight of the town's expectations on her shoulders as she made her way back to the beach, her mind racing with plans and counterplans. She knew she had to act quickly to prevent Flint from digging up the shipwreck and disturbing its secrets. "I have to protect the past," she thought, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The beach was quiet when she arrived, the only sound the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. The shipwreck loomed before her, a stark reminder of the town's rich history and the dangers that lay ahead. Sarah knelt down, her fingers tracing the weathered wood, and whispered a silent vow to protect it. Meanwhile, Captain Flint was busy preparing for his excavation, his mind focused on the treasure that lay beneath the sands. He watched as his crew assembled the necessary equipment, a gleam of ambition in his eyes. "This is my chance to make history," he thought, his smile widening. He was a man driven by ambition, and nothing, not even the quaint historian from Willow's End, would stand in his way. Thus, the stage was set for a battle of wills, as two determined individuals prepared for the adventure of a lifetime. The calm before the storm lingered over Willow's End, but beneath the surface, a tempest of conflict and desire brewed, ready to change the town's fate forever. The sun rose slowly over Willow's End, bathing the town in a golden light that hinted at the beauty and danger lurking beneath the surface. The tranquil morning belied the tension that gripped the town as Sarah Gray made her way to the beach, her mind a whirl of determination and fear. She carried the ancient map close to her chest, as if it were a talisman against the chaos that Captain Marcus Flint was about to unleash. Flint's crew was already hard at work when Sarah arrived. The men moved purposefully, their equipment gleaming in the early light as they prepared to excavate the shipwreck. Flint stood among them, his commanding presence undeniable as he barked orders, his eyes gleaming with ambition. "This is the day," he thought, his heart pounding with excitement. "Today, I make history." Sarah watched from a distance, her heart sinking as she saw the heavy machinery ready to tear into the fragile remains of the sea serpent. She knew she had to act quickly to protect the hidden chamber, and the secrets it held. "I can't let him destroy everything," she thought, her resolve hardening as she clutched the map. As Flint's men began their excavation, a crowd of townspeople gathered on the beach, their faces filled with a mix of anticipation and dread. Some were hopeful, eager for the promised riches, while others, like Mrs. Willow, were fearful of the consequences. "This isn't right," she whispered to Sarah, her voice trembling with worry. "We should have left the shipwreck alone." Sarah nodded, her mind racing as she considered her options. "I have to stop this," she thought, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. She moved forward, her steps hesitant but firm, as she approached Flint. Captain Flint glanced up as Sarah approached, a smirk playing on his lips. "Come to join the party, Miss Gray?" he asked, his voice dripping with condescension. "I assure you, this will be a day to remember." "This isn't right," Sarah said, her voice trembling but strong. "You're destroying a piece of our history." Flint's smirk widened, his eyes gleaming with amusement. "History?" he scoffed, his voice mocking. "This is about the future, Miss Gray. A future filled with wealth and glory." Sarah's heart pounded as she faced Flint, her resolve hardening. "This isn't just about treasure," she said, her voice firm. "It's about our town's legacy." Flint's expression darkened, his eyes flashing with anger. "You're standing in the way of progress," he said, his voice cold. "And I won't let you stop me." The excavation began in earnest, the sound of machinery drowning out the protests of the townspeople. Sarah watched, her heart heavy with fear and determination, as Flint's men tore into the shipwreck, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. She knew that time was running out, and she had to act quickly to save the hidden chamber. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the excavation grew more frantic, the men digging deeper into the sands. Sarah's heart pounded as she watched, her mind racing with a mix of hope and fear. "I have to protect the past," she thought, her resolve unwavering. The tension on the beach was palpable as the excavation continued, the crowd holding its breath as Flint's men unearthed the first signs of the hidden chamber. Sarah's heart sank as she realized that Flint was on the verge of uncovering the secrets she had vowed to protect. "I can't let this happen," she thought, her mind racing with a mix of fear and determination. With a determined cry, Sarah stepped forward, her voice echoing over the beach as she confronted Flint. "This has to stop," she shouted, her voice filled with determination. "You're destroying our town's history." Flint turned, his eyes flashing with anger and defiance. "This is my legacy," he shouted, his voice echoing over the beach. and I won't let you take it away from me." The confrontation hung in the air, the tension palpable as the two stood face to face, their wills clashing in a battle for the soul of Willow's End. The calm before the storm had passed, and the tempest of conflict and desire had broken, ready to change the town's fate forever. Dark clouds rolled in over Willow's End, their ominous presence looming over the beach as if nature itself sought to intervene in the clash between Sarah Gray and Captain Marcus Flint. The wind whipped through the small coastal town, carrying with it the distant rumble of thunder, a harbinger of the conflict that lay ahead. Sarah stood firm on the sand, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve as she faced Flint. The tension between them was palpable, their voices raised in a heated argument that seemed to echo off the cliffs and resonate with the storm brewing overhead. "You're destroying our town's history," Sarah repeated, her voice trembling with emotion. "This isn't about progress, it's about greed." Flint's eyes narrowed, his expression cold and determined. "You're standing in the way of greatness," he retorted, his voice as sharp as the winds swirling around them. "This treasure will bring prosperity to Willow's End, and you're too blind to see it." As the first drops of rain began to fall, the townspeople who had gathered to watch the excavation shifted nervously, their excitement turning to apprehension. The sky grew darker, and the storm's intensity increased, mirroring the escalating conflict on the beach. "Please listen to reason," Sarah implored, her voice almost drowned out by the howling wind. "This treasure is cursed, it's not worth the risk." Flint laughed, a harsh, mirthless sound that carried over the storm. "Cursed?" he scoffed, his eyes gleaming with disdain. "That's just a superstition, spread by people like you who are afraid of change." The rain began to pour down in earnest, and the excavation site quickly turned into a muddy quagmire. Flint's men hesitated, their faces pale with fear as the storm grew more violent. Sarah saw her opportunity and stepped forward, her heart pounding with hope and determination. "Stop this," she pleaded, her voice filled with urgency. "Before it's too late." But Flint's ambition was too great, and his greed too consuming. He waved his men forward, their hesitation overcome by his forceful commands. The machinery roared to life, and the excavation continued, despite the storm's fury and the townspeople's protests. Sarah's heart sank as she watched, her mind racing with despair and anger. She knew that the hidden chamber held secrets that should not be disturbed, and the storm seemed to agree, its thunder echoing her silent pleas. The confrontation reached its peak as Flint's men unearthed the hidden chamber, their shouts of triumph quickly turning to screams of terror as the ground beneath them gave way. The chamber, unstable and ancient, collapsed under the weight of the machinery, trapping Flint's men in a tangled mess of wood and sand. Sarah's heart raced as she rushed forward, her fear for the men outweighing her anger at Flint. She called for help, her voice filled with panic and determination as she and the townspeople worked together to rescue the trapped men. The storm raged on, its fury a backdrop to the desperate efforts to save those caught in the collapse. Flint, his face pale with shock and fear, stood helplessly by, his ambition shattered by the weight of his own actions. As the storm began to subside, the last of the trapped men was pulled to safety, their faces filled with a mix of relief and terror. Sarah stood on the beach, her heart heavy with a mix of emotions as she looked at the ruined excavation site. This was a mistake, she thought, her mind racing with a mix of relief and regret. We should have left the past alone. Captain Flint, his face a mask of despair, stared at the ruins of the shipwreck, his dreams of fame and fortune lying in the mud. The storm had passed, but the damage had been done, and Willow's End would never be the same. The beach was quiet as the townspeople slowly dispersed, their faces filled with sadness and relief. Sarah stood alone on the sand, her heart heavy with the knowledge that the storm had changed everything. The tempest of conflict and desire had broken, and the town's fate had been sealed, leaving behind only the echoes of a battle for the soul of Willow's End. As the storm clouds receded and the morning sun timidly emerged, Willow's End bore the scars of the previous day's turmoil. The once serene beach now resembled a battlefield, littered with the remnants of the excavation and the shattered dreams of Captain Marcus Flint. The townspeople, subdued and contemplative, gathered in small groups, their eyes reflecting the somber realization that their lives had changed irrevocably. Sarah Gray stood alone on the beach, her heart heavy with the weight of what had transpired. The events of the day before played out in her mind like a fevered dream, the clash between her and Flint etched into her memory. "We should have left well enough alone," she thought, her hands trembling as she clutched the ancient map. The hidden chamber, now buried once more beneath the sands, had proven to be a Pandora's box, unleashing chaos upon their small town. Captain Flint sat nearby, his face haggard and drawn. His ambition, once blazing bright, had been extinguished by the storm's fury and the collapse of the shipwreck. How could this happen? He wondered, his eyes filled with a mixture of disbelief and despair. The treasure, which had once seemed within his grasp, was now lost to him, a phantom of his shattered dreams. The townspeople gathered around Sarah, their faces etched with concern and regret. "What do we do now?" one of them asked, their voice tinged with fear. The once united community was now divided, their dreams of riches turned to ashes. Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding with a mix of determination and sorrow. "We have to rebuild," she said, her voice strong despite the pain she felt. "We have to come together and restore our town." She looked at Flint, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and resolve. "We have to learn from our mistakes and move forward." Flint's gaze met hers, his eyes filled with regret. "I wanted greatness," he said, his voice a whisper. "But I destroyed everything." Sarah shook her head, her heart aching with a mixture of sympathy and frustration. "You can still make things right," she said, her voice soft but firm. "We can all make things right, if we work together." The townspeople nodded, their faces brightening with a glimmer of hope. They began to clean up the beach, their movements slow but determined. Sarah watched, her heart swelling with pride and determination. "We can do this," she thought, her resolve unwavering. As the day wore on, the beach slowly began to resemble its former self. The townspeople worked tirelessly, their spirits lifted by the promise of a new beginning. Sarah and Flint worked side by side, their past conflict forgotten as they focused on the task at hand. By evening, the beach was clean, the remnants of the storm and the excavation cleared away. The townspeople gathered together, their faces filled with a mixture of exhaustion and hope. Sarah looked around, her heart filled with a mixture of relief and pride. "We did it," she thought, her smile broadening. "We rebuilt our town." Captain Flint stood beside her, his eyes bright with determination. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice filled with regret. "I let my ambition blind me." Sarah nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "We all make mistakes," she said, her voice gentle. "What matters is that we learn from them." The townspeople cheered, their voices echoing over the beach. The storm had passed, and Willow's End stood strong, its spirit unbroken. The future was uncertain, but the town was united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun set, casting a golden light over the beach, Sarah smiled, her heart filled with hope and determination. The battle for Willow's End was over, and the town was ready for a new beginning. Thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps a lot. If you don't, well, I'll still love you. Thanks for stopping by.